Think of the last time you had a drink, a beer, a glass of wine. Now, here's something you've never been told about that moment. Almost every other animal on Earth couldn't have done it. Give a normal mammal that same amount of alcohol, scaled to its size, and it's poisoned, impaired, sometimes dead. Alcohol is a toxin. Your body actually treats it like one. So why can you pour it down your throat on a Friday night and mostly walk away? The answer isn't willpower, and it isn't practice. It's a piece of machinery inside you that is 10 million years old, and you were born with it already installed. Long before the first bar, the first vineyard, the first sip anyone ever took on purpose, a mutation happened in an ape, in a forest, and it quietly rewrote what your species could survive. You didn't invent drinking, you inherited it. The taste was in your blood millions of years before you were born. But stay with me, because there are three things coming that sound like myths and are actually true. The first, your ancestors were built to handle alcohol before they were built to walk upright. The second, the oldest alcohol we have ever dug up is far older than farming, which quietly breaks the story you were taught about how civilization began. And at the very end, I'll show you why even this version, the one I'm about to walk you through, is too clean to be the whole truth. Let's go back to the forest. 10 million years ago, one of your ancestors was not a human. It was an ape, the common ancestor you share with chimps and gorillas. And it was coming down out of the trees. Up in the branches, eating was simple. Fruit off the tree. Fresh, sweet, safe. But down on the ground, a different kind of fruit was waiting. Fallen fruit, overripe, lying in the warm dirt where wild yeast had already found it and started doing what yeast does, turning sugar into alcohol. To almost any animal, that fruit is a trap. It's mildly toxic. Eat enough and you're slow, clumsy, easy to catch, easy to kill. But right around this moment in this line of apes, a single enzyme got rewritten. It's called ADH4, and it's one of the very first things to touch alcohol when it enters your mouth and throat. The new version was 40 times better at breaking ethanol down. 40 times. Picture what that does. The ape carrying this mutation could eat the fallen fruit that poisoned everything else in the forest. An entire food source all to itself. In a hungry world, that's not a small advantage. That's the line between eating and starving. So the ones who could handle alcohol ate more, survived more, had more children, and they passed the gene down the whole line, all the way to the person holding this screen. Scientists call this the drunken monkey hypothesis. And here's the part that should stop you. It means the pull you feel toward a drink may not be a modern weakness at all. It may be an ancient survival signal, the faint echo of an ape learning that the smell of fermentation meant food on the ground, and food meant living another day, which quietly sets up a problem we'll return to. Because a signal built for weak, watery fruit alcohol is now aimed at bottles that are 10, 20, 40 times stronger. Remember that. For now, we jump forward almost 10 million years to the moment humans stopped simply tolerating alcohol and started making it on purpose. And this is where the timeline breaks in a way that genuinely surprised me. Here's what most people believe, and what I believed too. First, humans settled down. First, we invented farming. First, we grew grain, built villages, produced a surplus, and only then, comfortable and civilized, did we work out how to brew. In that story, drinking is a luxury, a reward that arrived after we'd already built the world. The evidence hints it might be the other way around. Go to a place called Jiahu in the Yellow River Valley of China. Archaeologists there found pottery jars around 9,000 years old. When chemists scraped the residue from inside those jars and analyzed it, they found the unmistakable fingerprint of a fermented drink. Rice, honey, and hawthorn fruit. A Neolithic recipe. 9,000 years old, roughly 7,000 BC. That is the oldest chemically confirmed alcohol on Earth, and it is older than a great deal of what we casually call the foundation of civilization, and that feeds one of the boldest ideas in archaeology, sometimes called the beer before bread hypothesis. The claim is genuinely radical that maybe we didn't settle down to grow food to eat. Maybe in some places we settled down to grow grain to brew. Think about yourself as an animal for a second. Getting a whole group of humans to do brutal, boring, back-breaking farm labor year after year is hard. What actually makes people show up and keep showing up? A feast, a celebration, something warm to share, a drink. Under this theory, alcohol wasn't the prize for building civilization. Alcohol was part of the bribe that built it, the thing that pulled scattered, wandering people together around one fire, often enough that eventually they simply stayed. And once they stayed, the fields and the walls and the cities followed. I want to be careful because this is a hypothesis, not a settled fact, and I'll come back to it. But look at the shape of it. The oldest drink is older than the oldest bread. That alone should make you see a pint a little differently. So now you have both halves of the thread. 10 million years ago, an ape evolved to survive alcohol. 9,000 years ago, humans may have raised their first villages partly to make it. The line runs unbroken, from a mutation in a forest to a jar in a Chinese field to the glass in your hand. And now the part I promised, because if I stopped here, you'd leave with a perfect, clean, shareable story. Humans are born to drink, alcohol built the world, cheers. And a story this clean is exactly when you should get suspicious. So here's what you deserve to know. The drunken monkey idea is a hypothesis, not a law. The ADH4 mutation itself is rock solid. Measured in the lab, real, 10 million years old. But the leap from we can process alcohol to we were driven to chase it is an interpretation. And not every scientist accepts it. The enzyme is fact. The story wrapped around it is still an argument. Beer before bread is contested even harder. Plenty of archaeologists think farming came first and drinking simply followed the ordinary way. The Jiahu jars are real and astonishing, but one brilliant site doesn't settle a global question about why our whole species changed. Be suspicious of anyone, me included, who makes it sound decided. And the last one is the one that actually matters for you. Remember that ancient signal? The one tuned for weak fruit alcohol on a forest floor? That's the catch. Your biology was built for a trace of ethanol wrapped in fruit and fiber. It was never built for a glass of spirits. The very gift that once kept your ancestors alive is the same wiring that makes alcohol so easy to overuse today. That mismatch, ancient body, modern bottle, isn't a small footnote. For a lot of people, it's the whole risk. So what survives all of it? This. The pull is old, older than farming, older than language, older than our species. When you catch that scent, when you reach for a glass, you are running a program written in a forest 10 million years before you existed. That doesn't make it good. And it doesn't make it safe. It makes it ancient. Something worth understanding instead of just obeying. Your ancestors came down from the trees and found something on the ground that would have killed almost anything else alive. They survived it. Thousands of years later, their descendants learned to make it on purpose. And that 10-million-year-old machinery has been sitting quietly inside you the entire time. So be honest with me. Does knowing the craving is older than your whole species change the way you look at a drink? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this made your brain itch in the best possible way, that's the whole reason this channel exists. Subscribe and stick around because few things are stranger or more worth understanding than the body and the mind you spend your entire life inside.